It's Brian Preston, the money guy.
So let's start with this first one. This first one is from Preston.
Cool name.
It's Preston Hale. We have a Preston represented here and a Hale represented here. We got two different names. This is what Preston said. What should we invest in to prepare for a correction? And then, this is what Preston, 30 to 50% correction. What should we invest in to prepare for a 30 to 50% correction?
Man, that is such a simple question with a very complex answer.
Yep.
And what I always say, look, when we talk about specific investment advice, we cannot give you specific investment advice because there's so much that comes into play. What's your age? What's your risk profile? What are your goals? When do you think you're going to retire? Well, how much money do you make? All these things kind of come into, and you take all those data points in, and you shoot out the investment plan for a client. Now, so I'll give an answer, though. What should you invest in? It's going to be diversified. I mean, and I know that's kind of like, oh, gosh, I was hoping he would throw out an actual ticker symbol or thing. That's not the way this works. We always tell people, design your plan based upon what you want to do, when you want to do it, and then understand your why, and then we can start moving the pieces around to make sure you have enough risk assets like equities, enough diversifiers that help you against inflation like real estate and other things like that, and then we'll have enough conservative assets between our alternative sleeve as well as even old bonds that are kind of everybody's favorite kicking bag right now, but we'll work through all of that stuff. There's not some magic silver bullet on where you should be. Now, I will tell you, somebody who's in their 20s or 30s, don't overthink this. Even in your 40s, if you're just now starting, I love indexed. I want to make sure I emphasize indexed target retirement funds in the three biggest providers, Charles Schwab, Fidelity Investments, and Vanguard. You just tell how much you can save, when you need the money. They'll do a lot of that guesswork for you, and then you can just let your assets grow in the background, and then you can focus on building success.
All right, hey, Ribby, I'm going to give you something right here. Make sure you take this sound clip because this is going to be super valuable. I'm going to let you guys in on a secret.
Uh-oh.
A huge correction is coming. But we just don't know when. At some point in the future, it might be a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. We know that corrections are happening. The problem that I have with Preston's question is it sounds like he is assuming it's happening soon, right? That we're going to have a big correction that's going to take place. Well, that may or may not be true. It may be surprising for you to find out that when we design portfolios for clients, we base it much less on where that client is right now in this market cycle and more about where that client is in their financial life cycle. Meaning that we want them to have a good portfolio that whether the market goes up 30 to 50% from now or down 30 to 50% from now, they're in a portfolio that makes sense for that. If you're someone out there floating around and your allocation shifts from an 80-20 to a 20-80, I'm going to make the argument that you're doing it wrong. That is just maybe a little bit more aggressive market timing. You should have an allocation that makes sense for where you are, your current account structure, your tax situation, your unique risk tolerance matched with your risk capacity and what your overall goals are. Nowhere in there did I say you should have a portfolio prepared for the pending downturn or the pending upswing. Yes, it's okay to tweak around the edges, but what you should invest in to prepare for a correction is the same thing that you should be investing in to prepare for the bull market because none of us know when either of those are going to happen.
Well, even if you think things are getting frothy out there, guys, it can run for another 2 to 3 years.
Yep,
I mean, that's the problem with timing. You can, and Bo and I have done this with investment tactics when we were right on our prediction, but we got the timing all wrong.
Yep.
And so if you're looking at the economy and you go, man, things are really frothy right now, I'm going to get on the sidelines and just wait for the correction point and then get right back in. 2 years might go by and you're going to kick yourself. And remember, this whole concept, I always like to blow it out to that 30,000 foot overview. You are walking up a mountain with a yo-yo, and the fact that, yes, we're always worried about that 2 out of every 10 years correction, bear market, downturn, but it is always going to higher and higher ground. And you're like, yeah, but we're in a new paradigm. I got an email on Twitter. I mean, email on Twitter. I got a comment on Twitter asking me what happens when the U.S. goes away, China takes over, and what should we do? And I said, this sounds a lot like a new paradigm question. And always, whenever you get questions that we're in a new paradigm, my spidey senses say, woo, be careful, because you're probably getting yourself worked up into a change. And I don't even know what you do. When people ask me those one-off questions of, what if this is the worst thing that we've ever seen? I'm like, how do you even create a plan for like the collapse of an economy? If you play this out to what you're doing, there's not a plan there other than, and as I said on Twitter, going and watching the movie Red Dawn, and then trying to figure out who in your community you can become friends with that actually has a sporting goods store right down the street that you can go raid as this all happens. That's about the best preparation you can do.
That's it.
You know, so otherwise, I think creating a good diversified investment plan that serves your goals, your age, and your desires will be what you need to do for your army of dollars.